through the steps of the composite filling. Hello. Okay, so let's say we are done with the cavity preparation. We have MOD cavity, for example, for lower 6. 6 is always a good example for example, can be upper or lower. So let's say it's an MOD cavity for lower 6. We're done with the preparation. What should be the next step?
Cleaning and drying part of the step of the preparation.
Etching, bonding.
Isolation. So it doesn't really make sense to clean the cavity before the isolation. Okay, so first we have to apply the isolation. What type of isolation would you use? Rubber dam. Okay, later we'll talk about the rubber dam. Okay, when the rubber dam is on, what should be the next step? Wedges and?
Yeah.
Okay, so we apply the matrix and wedges. Maybe one more important thing that you should consider even before applying the isolation is the shade selection. So the problem with the rubber dam, first of all, most of these rubber sheets have some quite intense color, like blue, green, they can be black, pink, orange, whatever you can imagine, even translucent or transparent one. It's so ugly when you have the transparent one, you can see the tongue of the fish and just standing on the surface. You have to try it once, then you will never ever more use it. So it's really a shocking experience. So it can have such an intense color that can influence the shade selection. And the other thing, when the rubber dam is on, there is no more contact between the saliva and the tooth surface, which means that the tooth will dry. And if it dries out, then it will become what you think. If it dries, it will be more dark or more pale. Just think on when you have, wet shirt and it dries, it becomes pale. It will be lighter. Okay? And it will influence the shade selection. So, if you choose the color for the filling after applying the rubber dam, maybe at the end of the filling procedure you will see that you have the perfect color match. After removing the rubber dam and waiting a few days or even 1 or 2 weeks, normally we say that 2 weeks are necessary for the tooth to regain the very original color. The patient will come back for a checkup and you will see that the color of the filling is so light that you have to replace it. So that's why it should be a good idea to choose the color, the shade before applying the isolation. On the other hand, if we have, for example, a large amalgam restoration that can influence your shade selection, for that case, it's a good idea to first remove the amalgam, then choose a color. If you have just, superficial or medium caries, then you can do the shade selection even before removing the caries. Okay, it's up to you, but be sure that you do it before the isolation. Okay, so shade selection, isolation, matrix system with the wedges. What should be the next step? Let's say we have caries media. In case of caries media, do we have to make any baseline for composite filling? Not really. So forget it now. What should be the next step after the matrix?
Etching.
Now it's cleaning. Okay, now it makes sense to disinfect, clean and dry the cavity. Because when the isolation and the matrix is on, then you have all the surrounding structures and you don't even plan to place anything on the tooth or around the tooth. So this is the point when you should do the disinfection, the cleaning, and then the drying of the cavity. Okay, what's the next step after? Drying? Sorry? Cleaning, drying?
With the hands,
So the cavity is clean?
Now it's etching.
Clean, dry, we should do the etching. Okay, We had a short discussion in the seminar about the different generation of adhesive systems, and we were talking about the different types of etching techniques. Just for those who were not present on the seminar, many of you, we have two main types of etching technique. First of them is the so-called total etch system, and the other one is the self-etch system. Total etch means that you have to apply the etch on the cavity surface, you have to wait a bit, then wash it and dry it. Self-etch means that the etching agent is included in the adhesive system, so you don't have to first apply the etch, then rinse and dry, but when you apply the adhesive, at the same time you will apply the etch too. Okay? So these are the two main types for etching, the total etch and the self-etch. We don't really have to discuss about self-etch because technically it's quite easy. Just apply it on the two surfaces and but about the total etch, nowadays we are using the so-called selective etching technique, which means that the etching time for the enamel and the dentine is different. It's because the different structure of the enamel and the dentine. What do you think? Where do we have to use more time?
Enamel.
In the enamel. Of course, it's obvious. So, practically, you have to first apply the etch on the enamel, wait approximately 15 to 20 seconds, then apply on the dentine surface while the etch is still on the enamel, so you will apply it on the dentine, wait again 15 to 20 seconds, then rinse and dry. So with this method altogether, for the enamel you will have around 30 to 40 seconds of etching, and for the dentine 15 to 20 seconds. That's the ideal one. Later on, when you have more experience and you will have the lectures, I think in the fourth year, maybe you will see that sometimes we have to use different etching times, but first of all you have to learn this one, because it's the basic. In 95% of the cases, if you do it this way, then you will have a good result. Okay? So after rinsing and drying the cavity, let's say we plan to use fourth generation adhesive system. What does it mean?
Fourth generation, like
So how many bottles do we have here?
3.
We have the etching and 2 bottles. What is included in these bottles?
Primer and
Primer and the
adhesive.
Okay. What is the role of the primer?
Make connection with the dentine and the
Yes. Exactly. So primer is a bifunctional molecule. One end of the chain is hydrophilic, the other one is hydrophobic. Because the dentine is hydrophilic and the adhesive is hydrophobic, that's how we can make the connection. What about the enamel? Is it hydrophilic or phobic?
Hydrophobic.
It's hydrophobic.
Yes.
So there we don't have to use the primer. So when we apply the primer, where do we have to apply it?
Dentine.
On the dentine surface. Okay? We don't have to cover the enamel. When the primer is on, you have to wait a bit, a few seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. Then evaporate the solvent of the primer. Then you have to apply the adhesive. Where do we have to apply the adhesive?
On the dent.
On the dentine.
The
enamel.
dentine. No, we do the layering technique. We start from the dentine.
Bonding.
The
okay.
technique is for the composite.
Okay.
Everywhere.
So the
For-
adhesive we have to apply on the whole cavity surface. We have to cover the dentine and the enamel surfaces too. Okay? So when you apply the adhesive, then again you have to wait a bit. You always have to read the manufacturer's description about the product. From that you can learn for how long do we have to keep the primer on the two surface before evaporating, how long do we have to keep on the adhesive, how many layers do you have to use. So according to the manufacturer's instructions, you will use the material. At the end you have to evaporate it, then light cure. Yeah?
What's the role of the adhesive?
Sorry?
What's the role of the adhesive?
The role of the adhesive is to make the connection, first of all, between the enamel and the composite, and between the primer and the composite. So we can say that the glue, if we want to simplify it, but do not say it in the exam, please, okay? So it's the material that can make the connection between the two structure and the composite. Without that, the composite will never stay in the cavity, okay? Without that, the composite is just a piece of plastic. With the adhesive, it will have a quite strong connection to the two structures. And that's why we love to use the composite, because of this connection. So, after applying the adhesive and evaporating, you have to light cure it. How do we do that? With a lamp, or we can use a polymerization unit. It's the same, but we can call it
Polymerization unit.
How does it work? What type of light we are using? Blue light.
Blue light.
Okay. It's good because it's not ultraviolet. Okay? It's blue. What should be the wavelength? Around that. It's never an exact number. It's always in a range. Okay? So it should vary between, it starts around 410 or 400 and it ends somewhere around 530 or something like that. So it's a range. We have two main types of lamps. We have different classification, but the one that is important for us, we have polymerization units which have quite a narrow range of these wavelengths. So let's say maybe it operates between 460 and 490. Okay, so it has the wavelength between these values. So it means it can give more power than the lamp that, for example, has a wide range that works, let's say, between 430 and 500. So it has a wider range, wavelengths, but it's important that all of the composites, all of the light cured materials has an optimal wavelength. So let's say we have a composite that has an optimal wavelength of 480. And we have these two types of lamps. First of all, if you use the lamp which has narrow values or this narrow values of the wavelength, so let's say between 460 and 490, and you have a composite which has an optimum of 480, it's a perfect choice because with that you can easily and quite fast light cure the material. But if you have a composite that has an optimum of, let's say, 420, and you have a unit that has a range of 460 and 490, it means that it's not covering the optimal wavelengths for that material. That means you have to light cure it for a longer time to have the same result. Okay? So you always have to know the operating wavelengths range of your unit, and you have to know the optimal wavelengths for the material that you're using, and you have to try to match them. Okay? Okay. In general, we can say that the time for the light curing should be around 20 seconds. Most of the cases, it should be enough. Of course, you have to keep the unit, the tip of the unit, as close as possible to the material that you want to light cure. Because with the distance increasing between the tip of the unit and the material, all the power of the unit will exponentially decrease. Okay? That's why you have to keep it as close as possible, but never touch the material with the tip of the instrument. Okay? Try to keep it quite close. Okay. After applying the adhesive, what should be the next step? Okay. Making of the composite filling. How do we do that? What types of composite should we use? And I mean mainly for the density, the consistency of the composite. We have two types. the flowable, and the packable. So first we should use the flowable